Well, hello again, YouTube. As you can see, I'm in the heated garage. We're pulling out. 73 degrees in the garage today. All right, get outside here. All right, let's have a brief discussion here. So it was interesting to me that in the previous video I posted about the Mach-E heater just not working to my expectations, I kind of figured I would get some feedback from people, good, bad, or indifferent, and I did, and I'm glad to hear that, right? We're all on this journey together. Those of you maybe thinking about an EV, maybe even thinking about a Mustang Mach-E, you know, you've got to have that information. Ultimately, the decision is going to be up to you on if this is the right vehicle for you. Before we get going, I want to point out a couple things here. So what we're going to do, what's different about this video, the temperature is about the same. I'm going to let the temperature display tell you here in a little bit. Obviously, it just came out of a heated garage, so as you can see, 73 degrees. I'll tell you what the outside temp is here once the vehicle cools down and it allows it to, you know, register an accurate exterior temperature. A couple things that we're going to do slightly different. Some people that said that I had the auto temp set at 85 and they thought that might be too hot and potentially the fans were blowing. I had them set at number 6 out of 7. So here's what we're going to do. One suggestion was, let's get the heat at a reasonable temperature. So we're going to set that to 73 and we're going to use the auto fan feature. So those of you not familiar with the auto, is it gives you 3 fan speed settings. I'm going to have it on setting 3, which in my opinion is probably about the equivalent to like fan setting maybe 4, I would guess. So that's what we're just going to leave it at that. Here's the idea. It's just as cold as it was in that previous video. When I was coming out of the house, it said like, you know, minus 19 or something. So it's Fahrenheit. So it's just as cold as that previous video. The difference is the vehicle came out of a heated garage. Now, I didn't have it plugged in at all. It just came out of a heated garage. If you guys remember me showing you the display up here, I know you can't see it well right now. I'll try to show it to you later, but there are no box bars here. So essentially I have full use of the accelerator, which means the batteries are fully warm, the vehicle's fully warm, and we're ready to go. So I'm gonna start moving here. I'm gonna take the exact same route as I did yesterday, and the whole purpose of this is it is bitterly cold, just as cold as it was in that previous video. So in these situations, with the vehicle that is warmed, it's come out of a heated garage. Now, I'm not talking about preheating where, excuse me, I have the vehicle plugged in and then I either have like the schedule set or I use the app and I use the remote start and maybe like let that run for 15 minutes. In the case if you're parked in a heated garage, there's really no point in doing that because the vehicle's already warmed up and ready to go. It certainly wouldn't hurt anything, and yes, you will get heat faster if you did have it plugged in because now that PTC heater is on, it's running, it's essentially just pre-warming. So that certainly is something that could be done. However, in my experience, I haven't found that to be necessary. I noticed in some of the comments, some people had some thoughts and I got some direct messages where, hey, this wasn't a real world experiment. You didn't do this. Like one person said, I didn't even have the fan on, so clearly they didn't watch the video. I understand it was a long video. It kind of had to be in order to, you know, be as transparent as possible. So just to clarify, in that last video, yes, I did have all those things on. I hope to actually repeat that again for 2 reasons. One, just to show that is this something we can expect every single time when you don't have a heated garage and you're unable to plug in. Some people are saying, well, that's unrealistic if you own an EV. I would argue that's not the case at all. Depending on where you live, you may have like on-street parking. So you park on the street and then you have to walk up to your apartment or your house, and there's no way for you to even get power out there. So there's really no way for you to plug in, period. So the point of that is, if that's your situation, can you get into the vehicle and go and expect it to function? Yeah, I guess it's one thing if you have a 10-minute commute to work, but maybe you've got a 30-minute commute to work. And if the cabin temperature never gets above freezing, that's kind of ridiculous in my opinion, especially when you're spending this kind of money on a vehicle. I mean, if I'm completely off base here, let me know, but I'd have to think that there's people out there that are experiencing that. As I stated before, I'm very fortunate that I do have a heated garage that I can park in, so that's not as much of an issue for me. If we go back to the road trip that I had talked about, now let me just tell you where I'm at right now. So the steering wheel is warm, and I'm actually getting quite warm in my seat. So much to the point I'm actually going to turn down my seat heater. So as you can see, the seat heater is on number 3. That's number 2. And then I'm going to put it down to number 1. I've actually found that number 1 setting to just be perfect. It keeps the seat a little bit warm, but I feel like I'm cooking right now, okay? The inside of the cabin is already warm. It's already 73 degrees. So I've got the seat heater going here, and it feels like there's a fire under me. So I went ahead and turned that down to number 1. Steering wheel heater's on, feels good, feels nice. There is no high, low, medium setting, and the steering wheel heater is either on or off. But again, so the purpose of this is, now let's say I got to go on a road trip. I'm going to be on a 2-3 hour road trip. I got the kids loaded up. The cabin's warm. The seats are warm just from the ambient air. Can we make this trip work? That's what we're experiencing today. So I doubt you guys can see it. I'll take you off the chest mount here once we get to our stopping point up the road. The outside air temperature now is reporting at minus 26 degrees Fahrenheit. So in full transparency, we're 9 degrees or so colder than we were in that previous video. It's cold. It is. It's cold out. Even for us in Minnesota, this is some cold stuff here. I'm starting to get a little bit of fog in the window, which is expected. That's a pretty drastic temperature change going from plus 73 Fahrenheit to now minus 27 Fahrenheit. And the fact that I'm talking, but again, in a real world, if the kids are in the car and we're on a road trip, there's going to be lots of gums flapping, and anybody who's got younger kids knows that they're probably chatting quite a bit. So we got to be able to, keep our windows clear. I think what I'm going to do just for now, because I don't want this to turn into like any ice, I'm just going to go ahead and put the max button on. So if I press max defrost, that's just taking all of the airflow and it's moving it up to the defrosters. So I just hit that for a minute. As you can hear, it's getting noisy, but let's just make sure that we're able to get that cleared up before it gets too foggy. When you press that max defrost down here, it also turns on the rear defroster. I can see out of my rear window just fine, so I guess I don't really need that, but whatever, we'll just let it go. So the front window it's defogging nicely. Out of my side glass, I've got a little bit of kind of foggy frost that's coming up. You can see over here where I had the thermometer yesterday, there's quite a bit of air moving out of here, so I think that'll clear up. So just for the sake of being able to talk, and you guys don't have to listen to that loud fan noise, I'm going to take it off of the max setting now, and it goes right back to the auto. So I have it on auto, and I have it set my desired cabin temperature at 73 degrees. Currently, it's claiming the air temp is minus 28. I'll show you that in a minute. I disagree with that a little bit. My weather station at home, which I believe is quite accurate, was saying that it was minus 26. I know it's only a couple degrees, but just so we can kind of all be on the same page there. So I'm on the exact same trip that we took yesterday, exact same mileage, everything's the same. What I'm going to do is just pull off into the same spot. I'm going to take you guys off the chest mount here, and we're going to go over a couple of things quick. Excuse me. Okay, let me get in park here, and give me 1 second. So if you can see on the screen there, outside air temperature low, plug-in vehicle when not in use. Yes, it is quite low. Okay. All right, so first up, what's our cabin temp at? 72. And as you could expect, it's dropping a little bit. So what I want to do is put this guy back up here. Now, if you remember from yesterday's video, that's the exact same spot that I had that sitting. There's air coming out of here because I do have it on the auto setting. And again, it's trying to get the cabin temperature at 73 degrees. If you remember yesterday, or when I was showing you guys the bars here, there's just one bar that came up now. And I wonder if that's just because the batteries are cooling down just a tiny bit. But you know, yesterday we were cut down, like I would say close to 50% of the overall vehicle power was just blocked off here because of the cold batteries. I would say we're probably at like 95% open and available right now. And look at our range. I haven't charged this at all since that last video, and our range went up to 123. Probably just because the batteries are warmer and they're able to produce and put out a lot more power. There's the temp, guys. Again, you're probably thinking, why on earth do you live in a climate like that? Minus 29. It's cold. All right, so where did my energy go? 23% in this trip, just this trip. 6.7 miles. We've been in it for 12 minutes and 40 seconds. Our range actually went up too. We're at 1.9 miles per kilowatt hour. I have a video on range. So 23% climate use, 63% driving, and 11 from the exterior temperature. So these are a little bit better numbers than they were when the vehicle was just essentially ice cold. So that's good. How does it feel in the cabin? It feels fine. I can definitely feel cold air by the windows. Like as I said here, you can see there's just a little bit of frost that's coming up here. In the windshield here, you can see we've got a little bit on the line. But it's not bad. I can actually now, this is the first time when I put this temperature sensor here, I couldn't really feel much for warm air, but right now that we've stopped, I can definitely feel warm air coming out here. So certainly if we were on a road trip, this is one where, yeah, you got to have probably a sweatshirt on, maybe even a jacket in order to stay comfortable. But the cabin does feel okay right now. Certainly cold air from the windows. I can feel a little bit cold air lower, but if you remember yesterday when I said, you know, my feet are freezing, that is absolutely not the case now. My feet are comfortable. I can feel warm air coming out of the vent down here. So this is working. I think coming out of a heated garage is, you know, by far the way to go. I'm confident that this would work on a road trip. I do think that if the kids are talking and, you know, there's a lot going on, I'm probably going to have to hit that max defrost button, sort of cycle that on and off several times, and then maybe even adjust, actually take it off of the auto, because there's 3 fan speeds. So if you listen, it's at full right now. Let me press it once. So you can see we've got 2 bars and the sound went down a bit. I'll press it one more time. So that's the low setting. And when it's this cold, if you're gonna have it on auto, in my opinion, you gotta be on that number 3 setting, which is just the way it is. So let's take a look and see where we're at here. So 70 degrees. I'd say that makes sense. We're still reading 73 down here. I'm not going to keep you guys as long as I did yesterday. I do think, though, that if I left this in here for a while, this would sort of acclimate a little bit and probably, you know, drop closer down to 70. This has got blowing air going over it now, so it's probably going to be slightly more accurate. I'm trying to keep it away, at least a little bit away from the window, because you can feel the cold from the glass here. Also, as you can see up here, I did not get the glass roof. Would it have been cool? Yeah, but I do think that from a climate standpoint, not having that glass up there is going to keep it significantly warmer in here. That was a huge decision point for me. It would have been really fun to have that, but it just, our winters are just too cold. So I did not get the glass up there for the specific reason of the temperature. And I'm glad I did that. I think it would be colder in here. It'd be a lot harder to regulate that temperature. So minus 29, as you can see there, she is cold. We're still at 70 degrees here. I think and the heat feels, it does feel warm. It feels reasonable coming out here. So in closing, does this work? Yes. Let me tell you a couple of things. As you can see from the battery gauge here, our batteries are fully warm. Everything's happy. My feet are warm here, and I'm convinced that those batteries, it's such a big bank, for lack of a better term, such a big mass that you have below you, that when those batteries are ice cold, you feel that on your feet. Like, there is no way to isolate that, right? So your feet are going to remain cold essentially until those batteries have time to warm up. So if you can come out of a heated garage, you now have that bank warm. The full 5,000 watts on that PTC heater, in my opinion, can now go to the HVAC system. So maybe it's peeling off a tiny bit of that to go to just sort of maintain the battery temperatures, but it's not trying to like fully heat the batteries as it was in the previous video, okay? So because of that, it does work if you can keep it warm, all right? Now, for the next video, I do plan on doing something where the vehicle's outside. It's been outside for at least 12 hours in the bitter cold temperatures. The only difference is I left it plugged in, okay? So parked outside, cold, but plugged in. And we're gonna see how do things change in that particular situation. We'll go on the exact same route. I'll try to get as close to the same temperature as we can. But as you can see, like, if you have the luxury of parking in a heated garage, if you're afforded that, this vehicle will absolutely work for road trips. I just want to be clear about that. So if you have any questions, ideas for a next video, let me know in the comments. Give it a like, a subscribe. I'd certainly appreciate it. I do read the input that you guys give, so thanks for your time. I appreciate all of you. We'll see you on the next video.